Hey everybody, my name is Poppin' Fresh, your coach of the Phoenix Suns, and now that I'm officially out of this first season of VBL-S, knocked out in the semifinals by Stukov, who I think is going to go on to win it all, I just kind of wanted to do a season overview, kind of a draft recap, team, go through some of my team builders that I had set up for the season, then kind of talk about the playoffs, and then, you know me, I love my statistics, so we're talking about those for my team, and yeah, I just think this is, I'm really excited for next season. I want to just kind of wrap my head around how this season went, what I can do better, what I did well, and just kind of use this to build myself as a player from there. So, starting off, the draft itself, I went in really only knowing one thing, that I wanted either G-Max Rillaboom or G-Max Cinderace. And I thought that way because in this season's draft, we did it where G-Max was his own category. So you could pick a G-Max Rillaboom and essentially get a free Tier 1 Pokemon, which is what I wanted to do. And I picked Rillaboom because I don't remember if Cinderace had gone yet or not. But I like the versatility of Rillaboom. I like the Fake Out support, the Grassy Terrain support. It can do a lot of stuff in it. I think it did do a bunch of different things for me this season. The next, I picked Porygon Z because I saw Stukov pick Porygon 2, and I remember that Porygon Z existed and how strong of a threat it is, so I went ahead and picked him. And then from there, I just kind of went through. I think Chandelure was next. He was not on the team anymore. And yeah, as I went through, I didn't really have a plan. I wanted to make the most of my picks by doing mainly value picks. So Chandelure in Tier 2 I thought was very good for Trick Room, either doing Trick Room itself or being able to imprison Trick Room and also shut off Shadow Ball and other kind of Heat Wave spread room shenanigans. I think that's pretty much the only set I ever actually ran on it. And then it promptly was dumped from my team. Accelerator Palisand, pretty solid combo. Really bad against Redirection, Storm Drain, Rage Powder, any of that stuff. And I think I only actually brought it 2 games in the entire season. I don't remember against who, but I really didn't use it much. I thought just the fact that having it on my team would make people prep for it pretty hard, so I figured it wasn't actually worth bringing because it's pretty easily prepped for, honestly. I mean, you can see that in the semifinals game 3 I played against Stukov just for fun. He brought in Mr. Rhyme with like defense swap. I didn't even know that existed, and his Grimmsnarl with Darkest Lariat to go right through those boosts and just blow them up. Rhydon, I'm switching gears here. Rhydon I picked in Tier 3. I think he's a super clutch Tier 3. Great Eviolite user. Could have been weakness policy, but I never actually ended up using that. If he is not picked by someone else for Season 2, I will be picking him again. Magneton was actually pretty clutch Tier 4. Decent. He has a nice little niche. He's faster than Magnezone, so I was able to run him with a Choice Scarf and get some speedy Electro Webs off. Romatisse in Tier, I don't remember which one it was, but it was a free agent. Pretty solid Trick Room. Can't be taunted. Pretty nice there. Whatever was in this slot, I think it was Frostmoth, Ditto for 1 week, and Druddigon. Those were pretty much garbage. I never brought them. I brought Druddigon week 1 and played it in 1 game, and it got 1 kill, so it threw all my stats off with 100% win rate, 100% kill rate. And right there at the very end, we have a Moongus, who was originally Gyarados. When I was drafting, I wanted to save a Tier 1 pick for last to see kind of what other things I couldn't shore up in my team based on what I had drafted otherwise, and I originally didn't have any. I didn't have a Water type. I still don't, which I don't anymore. I didn't have any Intimidate user, so Gyarados kind of wrapped that up in a nice little bow. I think it was also my only flying type. But yeah, when I originally drafted, the team was a lot better type-wise, but not as good synergistic-wise, I don't think. So I eventually ended up trading out Chandelure for Alolan Ninetales to get some extra weather support, because I was facing some pretty intense Sun teams in the coming weeks. And Chandelure was just, you'll see later on, but Chandelure was just my weakest underperforming. Maybe that's on me, maybe I don't know how to use Chandelure. It's definitely a possibility, but it was definitely my most underperforming mon, so I swapped it out for Ninetales. Definitely a lot faster, able to use speed control with Icy Wind, weather control, Aurora Veil. It's got a decent Moonblast, so I mean, it definitely was one of my MVPs. Sam Maps is right, man, I should have brought it to semifinals. Maybe things would have turned out differently. And I ended up swapping out Gyarados for a Moongus towards the end because I had no redirection, almost no support options, which really kind of bit me for a lot of these games. And I think think it was in the original Power Ranked Time Guy did, called that my team had 0 support for Porygon Z, almost no speed control, and I mean, I definitely felt that. He definitely knew what he was talking about. I had never done a draft league. I didn't prioritize the right things, obviously. But I think I was able to free that up using some of my free agent moves. And Zoilus is there also. Literally drafted just for the sole purpose of being the Oko Gudra. I guess not Oko. Knock it out after an icy wind. But yeah, that was my team. I definitely liked it. I definitely had a pretty solid core that I would bring most weeks. Some kind of flex options here and there. Looking back, I probably should have made more use of weakness policy. I only brought that 1 week in the quarterfinals on Rillaboom. And I guess I was brought on Palossand, but I never actually brought Palossand. But that was another thing I maybe could have brought more, but I think it was pretty easy to bring before. I also could have made more smart plays with this slot right here. I think it was Dredagon, Ditto, and Frostmoth. I brought one of those Pokemon in 1 week, so I wasted a free trade switching to Ditto, who I didn't actually end up using. I thought it would be good against LBL the first time, but I didn't bring it because I thought it was too unpredictable. So that's the draft. Pretty cool stuff. Let's move on to some of my week-by-week stuff. So this was first week. I didn't really know what I was doing. I brought these guys. Eject Button didn't do anything. Rhydon was nice. Hornrill didn't do anything. Assault Vest Rillaboom, classic, can't go wrong. And Iron Ball Chandelure was nice. It was supposed to underspeed something, I think, but didn't really come to play. And Dredagon was there just because. This was against the Brooklyn Kangas. I remember his team was pretty threatening. He had that Kangaskhan, which I think is honestly like the best tier 4 pick you can do. You've got Scrappy Fake Out, and it's just beefy stats, man, for a tier 4. Tier 4 is where you find the baby Pokemon like Thwackey and all that other stuff. So I mean, if you can pick a fully grown Mama Kangaskhan, man, you're in the clear. Week 2 was against English Espeon, and this was the week when I remembered that Light Screen and Reflect were a thing. So yeah, that was fun. I got blown out here pretty badly. I remember I had done some calcs against Dragapult with this Chandelure, but I had never actually clicked the Dynamax option on Dragapult, so I didn't even think I got the hit off, but had I even got the hit off, it would have made a difference. Nothing fancy here. Week 3, this was against LDA, who at the time they were undefeated, so I was pretty stressed but going into that matchup. I wanted to plan really hard, so I ended up using Iron Ball Rillaboom. I did that specifically to underspeed his Indeedee, even if he did min speed, stuff like that, because I figured on Indeedee you're going to want to have something like Focus Sash to make sure you can get your Trick Room up with Hatterene and while you're doing your kind of follow me stuff. So I made sure to underspeed that so he couldn't get up Psychic Terrain, and I could do Fling to do some massive damage on that, and it actually worked. I actually pulled it off. It was a lot of fun there. Weird Gyarados spread. I don't remember what that was for. Yeah, nothing else fancy there. This was against LBL. I really didn't put much effort into this week. I think I calced this to maybe survive something from Kling Klang, I think. Definitely didn't survive anything from Venusaur, that's for sure. Yeah, this week was a pretty underwhelming week. I did not prepare well for this, and Raph definitely deserved that win. Another Excelgor Palossand game. This week was... Yeah, this is not very professional, sorry about that. This was against CMS. Okay. I had a Violate of Magneton this week because he had Corviknight, which was kind of scary. I didn't really have much that could deal with that besides for Porygon Z, but I mean, Corviknight's pretty beefy. I'd imagine it could probably take some hits pretty well. So I had this with Magnet Pull to make sure if he does get in, I will not let him escape. I will Thunder Wave it. I will slow it down. I will make sure it is not a problem. But he didn't end up bringing Corviknight, and I actually didn't even mean to have Light Screen on this guy. I meant to have something else. I wanted to have actually electric coverage for the Corviknight, but I think I deleted that move at the last second for Light Screen, but that actually ended up helping me out. I was able to survive some hits from his Drampa, and you also might know right here, this does not say Grassy Surge. So this was a good old Series 1 Rillaboom doing Series 1 Rillaboom things, and it was good enough. It got the job done, but obviously I got pretty lucky that didn't make a difference. Week 6 was against Stukov. the first time. I don't know where it went. I lost it. Week 7. So this was the first one where I pretty much did my huge team recap or revamp because I didn't know you couldn't make trades after week 7 going into this. So I changed out a whole bunch of stuff right before it. This was probably be my most proud prepping moment because Time Guy had pretty much been destroying this whole season with Comfy Gudra, just plowing through teams. Nothing could stand up to it. But I remember something I'd read a long time ago, back when Gen 5 came out, that Zoelis did have the strongest outrage in the game, even more than Rayquaza back then. That was before the Black and White Heroes came out. And I was like, I wonder if it's strong enough to get a Gudra through Dynamax. And sure enough, it was. Hustle, totally nullified by your Dynamax perfect accuracy moves. Dragon Rush gets dumb strong in Dynamax. And we have Ninetales here to make sure it outsped max speed Comfy, I think. Hit them both with the Icy Wind. This guy was easy to survive, at least with half health, I think a Draining Kiss or maybe a Dazzling Gleam from Comfy. But anyways, strategy, slow them both down, knock out Gudra in one hit, and it worked. And after that, I don't remember who I had in the back, but it was definitely nice. I think this week I didn't bring either of these two. So I think it's probably just this core of 4 here, and it got the job done. And we also had Head Smash on this to do a lot of damage to Comfy afterwards. That's his other most strong option. This guy got a Steel move, man. He'd be so much better. Yeah. That was that week. Moving on to week 8. This was against Smoothie. So he had a pretty strong Sun Core coming in. He's got regular Ninetales and Venusaur, who had definitely done some damage to me when I faced Brath with his Venusaur. So I did not want that to happen again. So I brought Weather Ball on Ninetales, which ended up kind of becoming a staple of Ninetales. It was either going to be 100 base power in Hail with stab bonus, or 100 base power plus 50 in Sun. So it was going to be doing a lot of damage to Venusaur, regardless. And we have Icy Wind for speed control, Moonblast, Aurora Veil. Nothing else fancy here. I did have a Snarl Assault Vest on the Rillaboom because this team is pretty specially threatening, and I really don't have too many grass resistances. I mean, Amoonguss and that's it, but you can't even redirect it because it's Venusaur, it's grass. It's gonna do nothing with the Rage Powder. So that was that, and it did work out. So I was very glad there. This week was against California Colossals. And I had this all super calced out at the beginning. I had my Rillaboom, my Ninetales lead, it was all perfect. Then I forgot that Torkoal learns Yawn, and my Pokemon started going to sleep, and I had nothing to do with it. So I definitely lost there. It was a well-prepped week by California Colossals. Week 10, I came into it against Sticky, who's also in the finals now. And this week was pretty cool. I put a Jack button on Rillaboom, in case I got faked out, because his Hitmonlee was 2 points faster than it. Nothing I can do about that. And I'm not going to run Jolly Rillaboom when I have all this other priority stuff. So if it fakes me out, it fakes me out. I'll switch into something else. And that actually did work out. I don't remember what I switched into, but it was pretty nice there. And then this little bad boy, Choice Scarf Magneton. One of the reasons I like Magneton is slightly faster than Magnezone and 2 whole tiers below it. So I can get a pretty fast Electro Web off, and I think I only ever used Electro Web and Reflect, but that definitely did pave the way for me to be able to win that week. So I ended the regular season going 6-4 with the differential of 19. If that's accurate and updated. I'm not sure if it is, but definitely better than I'd expected. I had no hopes coming into this. I just wanted to see how I do. Because I've been watching a lot of Draft League stuff on YouTube. It's pretty fun, and it definitely is. So I was happy to be able to make it to the playoffs. And this week was against Brath, a rematch that I had lost. Both my playoff games were against teams that I had lost, so I wanted to be able to redeem myself, and I at least did here. I brought Ninetales and Rillaboom lead both times. You have Ninetales with Weather Ball, Aurora Veil, Encore, and Icy Wind. I brought back Weather Ball. Like I said earlier, it's really good against Venusaur. It's either going to be strong with this Hail or strong with the Sun. It's going to do a lot of damage. Aurora Veil because it's Ninetales, and you're going to be wasting your time if you don't bring it. Encore, I brought this. It didn't come into play, and it never showed up. But I brought that in case he brought Klefki, because his Sun modes were going to either be Fast Talonflame setting it up, or Priority Klefki setting it up. and if you could get it set up with Klefki, turn 1 I was just going to encore the Klefki, so I had to switch out next turn because getting locked into Sunny Day is kind of useless, and I was probably going to do something else with the Rillaboom. Rillaboom was EV'd to survive a pretty strong poison move from Venusaur. Ended up being Weakness Policy, which I had not prepared for, but that ended up being pretty lucky that I could survive that while Dynamax. I had not calced for a +2 Venusaur. I'd only done Dynamax, but bad neutral, and it worked out. We got our Acrobatics here for the speed boost, and after Weakness Policy goes away, a stupidly strong move outside of Dynamax. Standard Porygon Z stuff, and standard Amoonguss stuff. Didn't bring those to me. And last week, and my final week, up against Stukov again, I wanted to try and redeem myself, but I thought I could bring Excelgor Palisand, but again, I brought it and then realized I probably shouldn't send it in. Also, this was pretty dumb, man. I didn't know Excelgor learned Yawn. The entire season I had this one on my team. I picked it because I knew it was a clutch Pokemon, had a lot of support options, but I guess I didn't scroll down far enough to the bottom of the list to see Yawn there start with a Y. But Mudshot and enough EVs to outspeed Cinderace? Probably Cinderace. Slow it down and get it with something from Rillaboom or PZ. But I never ended up bringing Excelgor, so too bad. Overall, I definitely could have prepared more. Probably could have reflected more on that first game with him, but I had fun. That's really all that matters, right? So ended up going 7 and 5 if you count the playoff games, which is definitely better than I'd expected. I'm no VGC expert. I really only started playing this year. I've come from a singles background, but I've gotten into VGC more this year since it's really the only thing you can play on card, and it's really fun. I've never thought it would be that much of a fun format, but it totally is. So, moving on, let's talk about statistics, my favorite thing. So overall, we have total season KOs. Not surprisingly, we have Porygon Z right up there at the top with 30 KOs. Definitely my most powerful Pokemon. So hard to switch into, and he definitely got the job done. Up next was Rhydon, who surprisingly got more than Rillaboom, but I mean, I tend to run more of a supporter kind of Rillaboom and all-out attacking Rhydon, Violite. And after that, it kind of tapered off. Those three were definitely my big damage dealers. Ninetales surprisingly coming in next with 5 kills. And then everything else from there just kind of tapered off. I did screen Druddigon out of these stats because he only showed up once, so he basically wasn't even on the team. So, you may say, well, Poppin' Fresh, Porygon Z's stats were skewed because you brought him so often. To that I say, let's look at average KOs per game. So this is essentially how many KOs they got divided by how many games they were in. And Porygon Z was the only Pokemon to get, on average, more than 1 KO per game. Everything else was kind of middling here. Our supporter guys, Excelgor, Amoonguss, Romantis, and I would say to an extent Ninetales was mainly support. They average kind of less. Chandelure were down there, despite having the highest special attack in the format. Kind of crazy, but maybe that just goes to show that I don't know how to use Chandelure. Gyarados, who was a pretty good member of my team for the time being, I think he was at exactly 50% before I traded him to Sticky, and who's definitely been making better use of him, so take him to the championship, buddy. Ninetales, Magneton, pretty good stuff, but I mean, that's kind of what you expect. Average deaths per game, Ninetales right up there, number 1. Pretty frail Pokemon, lots of bad weaknesses, but I mean, Ninetales' job isn't to get KOs and live the whole game and be a tank. It's to set up the Veil, drop the speed with Icy Wind, maybe do some Weather Ball shenanigans, and then die. And it did that very well. Rillaboom was also a pretty high dyer. I mean, he's bulky, but he's not enough to take repeated hits. And he wasn't one of my main damage dealers, so that's totally fine. Average differential, this is kind of these last two put together. So anybody up here is on average going to be killing more Pokemon than they are getting killed. So that would be Magneton. That's skewed due to sample size. Porygon Z number 1 and then Rhydon number 2 there. Those make sense as they were my 2 biggest KO leaders. Moving on next is to the number of games won per Pokemon. So kind of makes sense. My tier 1s, my Gmax leading the way. Then Ninetales and Rhydon right in the back. And then there's kind of a drop off there. some of these lower, less used guys. That is partially due to me using them less, but also, oh, Dradagon's there for some reason. There he is. But if we take a look at the average win percent, my only two guys who had a positive win percent were Magneton and Ninetales. I guess the movies are there at 50-50, huh? But that just kind of speaks to how good of a support option they were. Magneton's definitely skewed by sample size, whereas Ninetales is just a good, solid Pokemon that I probably should have been bringing every week since I picked it up. And I think I did every week except for the semifinals, and we know how that went. Surprise Porygon Z is below average. He's definitely a powerhouse, but if you can get up screens, drop his special attack, he's definitely manageable for sure. And then we have all the way down here, less than 20% Chandelure. Woohoo. And then this is something I was really interested in. So this is essentially a measurement of performance of each Pokemon. So how I did this was take their win percents on this graph here. I do this for every team, by the way, so if you guys want to see this, I can send it out. So take their win percent and then divide it by the team's overall win percent. And so what this metric tells you is essentially which Pokemon were driving the performance of the team. So if you're up here, that means you were overperforming, and if you're down here, that means you're underperforming. So as we can see, Chandelure heavily underperforming alongside Palisand. Magneton up there at the top with Ninetales shortly afterwards. Amoonguss, Gyarados, and PZ are also my other guys overperforming. So those are kind of the stats I use to kind of determine who my MVP most likely is. Before I make that conclusion, I did want to say that I did take account into the sample size for each of these. So Magneton's really high, but I only brought him 4 times. I did win all 4 games I brought Magneton, so he definitely overperformed. But had I brought him as much as Porygon Z, I bet things would probably have been different. So here we have our MVP determinant. What I did was just plotted the overperforming numbers versus the number of times they showed up. And ideally, your MVP would be somewhere over here in the top right. But essentially, as you can see, here's Magneton, and as the number of times you bring the Pokemon increases, it kind of normalizes around towards your team, a point which would be 1, which would be exactly, he is performing exactly the same as the rest of your team, which means he's probably driving it. But given on down here, Porygon Z is brought just as many times as Rillaboom, but he's positive as opposed to Rillaboom being negative. I think that's safe to say he's my MVP. I pretty much figured he would be. I'm sure you guys who played me knew he was. He got me pretty much all the way through the season, and I'm definitely looking at drafting him for next season because it's just such a powerful Pokemon. And I mean, he's one of my favorites too, so it just kind of works out that way. Lastly, took a look at our bench warmers, who was left on the bench most times. I brought them, but I decided, maybe not this week, champ. So that was Rhydon and Aromatisse, both tied for 10 times sitting on the bench. And that makes sense. I kind of brought them together. They were my Trick Room mode. Aromatisse to set, Rhydon to do some damage. And a lot of the times I just didn't bring it because I don't really have anything else that works like a Trick Room. Yeah, so that is pretty much all I have. A lot of fun season. I'm recording this before finals, so I don't know who wins yet. My money's on Stukov. Maybe that's just because he's beat me twice, and I've only played Sticky once. But I don't know. I'm definitely excited to see how it goes. Looking forward to the next watch party, and really looking forward to season 2. See what we can all do there, and see what kind of team I can draft, and see how everybody else does, and just, I don't know, man. This is such a fun experience. You guys are all great. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch. If you dipped out earlier, totally get it. If not, thanks for sticking around. Alrighty, that's all I got. Till next time, take it easy, guys.